Hello and welcome to Eva's House of Spirit. I'm Eva, and today I want to talk a little bit about snow magic. Where I'm at, we just had a decent snowfall, and it's been kind of cold, and so I was thinking about, the magic, the energy, the symbolism of snow, and I thought I would make a video about it. So, first of all, I have some notes with me, so if I look down, I'm looking at my little thoughts that I wrote down. The first thing I want to talk a little bit about is some of the associations of snow. The first thing that I would personally associate with snow is the north, and therefore also the associations that are connected with the north. I would go so far as to connect them with snow, as snow is symbolic of the north. Obviously, white I would associate with snow. Light I would associate with snow. Cold, it's another obvious one. And by extension, the cold that is associated with snow leads me to associate snow with a need for community and family togetherness to ensure survival and comfort. Also a need for the returning to the hearth or the sacred fire. I feel that snow and winter and cold, all these things kind of connected to one another, they urge preparedness in us, sort of like the fable of the ant and the grasshopper. You had the grasshopper was kind of just hanging out all season in the warm weather, not doing anything really to prepare for the harsh winter ahead. But the ant was toiling hard, doing everything that he could to prepare for the winter, and the grasshopper was like, "Oh, why are you working so hard? You need to just relax, just kick back." And the ant said, "The winter is coming, you really better prepare." And the grasshopper wasn't paying any attention, wasn't paying any heed, and then when the winter set in, the grasshopper unfortunately froze to death and died. I know, it's a pretty grim tale, but yeah, it's a tale that urges preparedness, and I feel that, the whole concept of, snow, winter, cold, I feel that they urge us to be prepared, to be ready, to have our resources well stocked, well collected, to have everything in order for the harshness that, we will face through the winter. Also, I feel that snow and the winter and the cold, by extension, have a sort of association with introspection, because we turn into our homes, we turn away from the cold and the harsh weather, we turn inward to our dwelling places, and therefore that is symbolic of turning into ourselves. Meditation time, thinking, time of reassessment. So yeah, introspection I would associate with snow. And I feel that snow is a symbol of what pushes us to be our very best as human beings, in all senses of the word, because, again, going back to my feeling that snow or cold sort of is symbolic of a need for coming together, for survival and comfort. You have to really be in touch with your humanity to really care about not just yourself but others, your community, your family, to be able to be part of a group that comes together to ensure that everyone is okay. You really have to be in touch with that human side of yourself that has empathy and that really seeks to do well by everyone. So I feel that snow is a symbol of what pushes us to be our best as human beings. And I feel that snow and cold and winter, by extension, also symbolize strength and resilience, because, they really this element, this phenomenon, snow, really requires a lot of us. It it can be harsh. It presents us with a lot of tough situations, that we have to push through, in order to get by. I mean, tell me it's not a pain in the ass when you get up in the morning and you gotta, scrape off your car, shovel off, things, like clear your driveway, clear the path in front of your home, make sure the sidewalk is clear so nobody falls, be careful of the roads because you don't want to have an accident, all that kind of stuff. These are obstacles, but they're obstacles that, they require a lot of us as human beings, because if we cannot stand up and be strong and do the things we must do, these pain in the ass things, then we're just not going to get by. Also, snow is symbolic of dormancy, obviously, as is the season of winter. It's like the earth is going dormant. And finally, I'd like to say that snow and winter and cold, these kind of things, they're symbolic of death that is necessary for birth or rebirth to occur. I mean, think of bulbs that will bloom in spring into beautiful flowers. They need the cold, they need the snow and the winter, or they won't be able to complete their natural cycle. They need that period of cold so that they will be able to bloom later. It's sort of symbolic, in a sense, of trials or tests being put to us so that later we will be our very best. You really have to think that sometimes when horrible things occur, had we not gone through certain things in our lives, we wouldn't be who we are today. You learn from experience, you learn from your trials, you learn and you become stronger and you become better. So those are my associations with snow, and also like, cold and winter and all that kind of goes together. And these are not the only associations. These are not like the associations. These are just some things that come to my mind when I think of snow. You may want to think about it for yourself. What does the snow and the winter and the cold mean to you? And in developing, in kind of following that train of thought and developing like what it means to you, writing it out, thinking about it, you may find a whole new spiritual view of not just the snow, but the season of winter and the cold and all of that. And you may find that in recognizing what the snow and the winter and the cold symbolize to you, you may find not just an understanding of these things, but also a different or new, way, or a way, period, of relating your spirituality and relating your magical work to the snow and the winter and the cold, now that you have developed a better understanding of it, a better sense of what it means to you and what it speaks to you. I hope that makes sense. That said, I wanted to also say that I was thinking about how we might work, magic kind of in relation to snow. And one thing I thought, it's kind of along the lines of those putting it on ice spells that people do. But see, the drawback of, I think, putting it on ice using a freezer, where you would write a situation or a person's name and then you put it in the ice cube tray and then you fill it with water and freeze. The problem is you're keeping the situation kind of locked until, God forbid, you lose power one day and everything melts, and then poof, everything's released again and everything becomes active again. That's the one drawback to that. Well, I thought, wouldn't it be great to utilize the snow if something happens to come up in the winter time? Now, this obviously wouldn't be something you could do in the summer, but I thought, if let's say you have a situation with a person or something going on that you need to kind of like stop it in its tracks, but you don't want it to be released later. I think a good thing that you could do in a period of snow like this is take a walk or a drive, go somewhere where there is snow on the ground, not near your home, and in a snowbank using either, you can use a stick, you can use a pencil, you can use your finger, you can use your wand or your athame. Well, some people would argue that an athame shouldn't actually cut anything physical, and if that's your personal belief, then don't use an athame. But you can use pretty much any implement that you feel is correct. I like a pencil sometimes because pencils are symbols of air, they're symbols of thought, and they're very readily available. So you would go to the snow and you find a nice clean spot, you know, something that's sort of smoothed off, like a snowbank that's like smooth, nobody's really trampled through it, nothing's messed it up. And you take your implement and you write in the snow a word that symbolizes what it is you're trying to freeze, you know, stop in its tracks, whether it's the name of a person who's giving you trouble or a keyword that symbolizes a situation that needs to stop. You write it in the snow, and as you're writing it, you think to yourself thoughts along the lines of like, I am, you know, chilling you out, I am freezing you, I am stopping you. This is going to stop you in your tracks. You're going to stop. Something along those lines. You can visualize the situation dissipating, you can feel emotions associated with the dissipation of the situation or the freezing or the stopping of whatever's going on. Whatever you need to do, you know, just really summon in yourself while you are writing this word, summon in yourself that sense that it is chilled out, it is stopped. And then what you're going to do is once your word or your name of your person who's bugging you or whatever it is in the snow, you would then turn and leave and don't look back, just go. I don't think it's necessary per se to go home by a different route. You can if you feel that that resonates with you, but I think it's most important just don't look back at that snowbank with that word you wrote. Just don't. Just leave it behind you and just leave. Now, what makes this better than putting it on ice in your freezer spell is that you're not, when the snow melts, the situation will naturally dissolve. It will dissipate. It will cease to be. It will melt away. Now, when you freeze something in your freezer, it's kind of on indefinite hold. Unless, God forbid, like I said, your freezer should go on the fritz and it should unexpectedly melt and release everything. Because you still have the paper with the name. So it's like the person is, the whole situation, or if it's not a name, the situation, whatever it is you wrote down on that paper that you froze in your ice cube tray, you know, that's still solid, it's still tangible, it's still there. So it's not allowing for that dissipation like writing the situation or the name in the snow as it melts naturally as the season warms up or as the snow goes away, like it'll just naturally melt away on its own. So that's one idea I had to you know, just like freeze or stop or chill out a situation or a person who's being a jerk, and then to allow it to naturally, the whole situation naturally dissipate. I also thought about troubles presented by, you know, snowfalls sometimes in terms of travel. Excuse me. I thought about how important it is to ensure safe travel in, you know, this snowy, harsh weather. And what I came to is the idea of making up an herbal mix that as you are making it, you empower, again, with thought, emotion, maybe visualization or some such, whatever it takes to well up in you the intention of, you know, safe and secure travel. I would say blend up equal parts of the following herbs. I'm going to tell you what the herbs are and why I chose them. I chose 7 herbs. The first being comfrey, because comfrey is for safe travel and protection. Or I'm sorry, oh my God, comfrey is for safe travel. I was looking at my note for the next herb. The next herb is bay, because bay is for protection, to keep negative things at bay. And then the next thing you would add would be nutmeg, to ensure that the odds of things that unfold, so the odds of events will kind of be more in your favor, things will go better for you. Then I also recommend using allspice for success, as you want to ensure successful travel. And then I suggest adding chamomile for calm in the face of adversity. So like if on your travel, if something should kind of go wrong, you're not freaking out and panicking. And then I recommend some pine needles for mental clarity, to ensure that you have a clear head with which to think through any difficulties, or if you need to make up your mind really quickly as you're, driving or going wherever you're going, the pine will ensure that mental clarity. Pine is also an opening herb that in a sense opens the road before you. So pine as well is good for ensuring that you can get to where you need to go without like a lot of obstacles or any obstacles in your way. And finally, I suggest adding some mugwort. And the reason why I suggest mugwort is a very good herb for psychic enhancement. And I feel that it's important to add this herb in this herbal mix for safe travel, because mugwort increases your ability to heed your instincts. Sometimes, you may get feelings about things. Like if you're going to get in your car and you suddenly have a feeling like I shouldn't drive to such and such a location, or maybe you have a feeling like let's say you're driving already, you have a feeling I should turn here, not there, or take this road and not that one. Well, mugwort will help to ensure that your instincts are sharper and that you can heed them. So yes, I recommend a mix of roughly equal parts of comfrey, bay, nutmeg, allspice, chamomile, pine needles, and mugwort. You can grind them up in your mortar and pestle, and these can be used either as incense or as a sprinkling powder, perhaps. What I recommend you can do with this herbal mix is you can burn it as incense in your vehicle, in advance of any kind of travel that you need to do this season. Maybe you could do this at the start of a season or at the start of a week when you have to go traveling out in bad weather or whatever. You can burn it as incense in your vehicle, or you can burn it as incense in your home and like kind of waft the smoke over yourself, maybe a few hours before you need to leave the house. Or you can also just use the incense as a prayer and intention carrier. You can burn some outside, actually, in an incense burner. You can burn it outside and let the smoke just go up to the heavens, out into the universe, carry your intentions and your prayers for safe travel. You can do that. You can sprinkle this powder in your car, and you can keep some extra so that if you have to vacuum out your car at any point, you can re-sprinkle this mix. This can be added to mojo bags, spell bottles, dolls, to ensure, the safe travels of yourself or someone else. There's a lot of different ways, or even to sprinkle this over candles lightly. You don't want too much. If you put too much of an herbal sprinkle over a candle, it can affect the way it burns. So, but yes, that's something I recommend, maybe the herbal mix, but I think you really have to put intention into it. So I think as you add each herb, you want to be conscious of the properties that I mentioned as I told you what each one is for. Think kind of what they're for, maybe write them down before you actually put these together. from this video, you can write down what I said each one is for, and then as you add them into your mortar and pestle before you grind them up, each time you add one, you can kind of focus on, okay, this one is for this one is for this, I feel this other condition from this other herb, coming in, each one you would really focus on, and maybe, again, feel, visualize, think of these qualities being built up in these herbs working for you. You can kind of direct their energies in that way to do what it is that you seek them to do. So there's that. But this is something that you need to really do in advance. I mean, obviously, it's not going to help you much in a situation on the fly if you haven't prepared the powder and used the powder ahead of time. But if you know that usually you get like a harsh winter, or if you see in the weather forecast you're going to get like a bad week or something, or a few bad days coming up, you might want to prepare this. So there's that. And finally, I think before I wrap up this video, I want to mention a book that you might be interested in getting. It's called Earth, Air, Fire, and Water, More Techniques of Natural Magic by Scott Cunningham. And in this book, he has a lot of really cool chapters in regard to magic cast with the elements and, other natural phenomenon. And there is a section in here for snow magic, and there is a section in here for ice magic as well. But it's a really good book. Let me just read to you the contents. Let's see. I'm going to skip down. I mean, he gives you some brief basics in part 1, and then basics of magic in part 1. So if you're a little new to practice, this book will still give you a good guide a little bit. Part 2, elemental magic. It talks about earth power, air power, fire power, and water power, working with those. And then part 3 is natural magic. He tells you about stone magic, magnet magic, candle magic, star magic, snow magic, ice magic, mirror magic, wishing well magic, sea magic, and then the last part of part 3 is creating your own rituals. So I think, if you enjoyed this video, if you like this sort of a topic, you may want to get this book. This is the part 2. I think he has another book, and I can't recall the name of it. Let me see if it is listed in the beginning. Usually they have what's the name of it? I don't remember the name of the book that goes before this. I believe it's, I don't know if it's Earth Power. Oh. I think he has a lot of books. I think it's Earth Power, I want to say. I could be totally wrong. But this is actually a book that he wrote after another book. I think the other book is green going around. I want to say it's Earth Power. I could be totally wrong. But you can tell that this is the second of a 2-book series because it says more techniques of natural magic. There's a book that precedes this one. And I'm sorry that I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. But yeah, I recommend this book if you're interested in the topic that I've covered for you today. I hope that my ideas of freezing and dissolving a situation naturally using snow, and my other idea of creating an herbal incense or powder to help with safe travel in this harsh weather, I hope that comes in handy for you. I hope I've given you something to think about. Maybe you might want to think about snow in magic, and by extension ice and winter and all that kind of stuff. Maybe think about it a little bit, and again, come to know your associations, come to recognize what the snow and the winter and the cold and the ice and all that stuff means to you, and maybe get a little creative. Think about how you feel you can best utilize it in your work or spiritual practice. And with that, I wish you blessed be and ashe. And till next time, bye-bye.